I'm doing a video on replacing input shaft on this 2020 EZGO RXV Elite. The rear end is whining and I recognize it to be a worn input shaft. These do wear input shafts faster than normal carts because it's all regenerative braking. There's no real brake system on these. This car only has 6,000 miles on it, so I'm pretty surprised it's already needing a new input shaft, but here we go. And here's the input shaft. You can get these on Amazon or eBay. The aftermarket ones work perfectly fine. If you do want your cart dead silent, I do suggest getting the OEM ones. These do make a little bit more sound than OEM, but these do work just fine. Came with a seal, O-ring, and circlip. We don't need to use the seal because this is a sealed bearing, but I mean, we're gonna use the seal anyways. And here are the tools. You're gonna need circlip pliers, T27 to access the access panel, various 10mm sockets and wrenches, vice grip to pull the input shaft out, and let's get to this. And when I'm working on a cart, I like to remove the seat. The first step is removing one of the leads on the battery just to make sure it's disconnected. Okay, we're gonna remove the access panel. The access panel is just being held on by 4 T27 screws. And if you have a back seat, you're gonna have to remove it. Okay, with the access panel off, the goal here is to take the motor off and then set it right here so you're able to work on the input shaft. And what I do is I just cut all the zip ties here and disconnect all the connectors. And that way I'll have enough slack to get it right here. And you will have to disconnect the motor wires at the controller. And here's the motor controller. Just these 3 wires at the bottom here is what we're gonna remove. It just takes a 10mm socket. Now it's time to remove the motor from the rear end. It just 10mm bolts. It looks like there's 6 all around. Okay, I got all the bolts disconnected, and the whole goal right now is to put the motor right here. So you gotta just make sure that your wires have enough slack, and then these are pretty heavy, so might not anybody can just do this. So just wheel it off. And put the motor right here. And here's the input shaft. And there's a seal around here. We're gonna have to rip the seal out. What I use is just a small flat head and use a hammer, and I just try to stab it and just pull it out. And with the circlip pliers, there's a circlip here that we're gonna pull off. Got the circlip out, so, oh yep, didn't need vice grips like I thought. And so that's it. Here's the old input shaft. So my theory is these are the smallest gears in the whole gear train, so they do take the most amount of load. Also, they're the last gear to be lubricated. And something I noticed with this one is the bearing has a lot of side-to-side play. I mean, it's just kind of loose in there. It feels rough. This one feels rough, but I would still say it's decently good. So I do think if I replace this bearing, the sound might actually go away. Now with the new bearings, new input shaft, they usually come with sealed bearings, which arguably might be a better design because I think wheel bearings do better in wheel bearing grease than gear oil. These don't just have gear oil, they have gear oil with friction modifiers, so that's more potential for wear. So let's get the new one in. And there is an O-ring in here. You don't always have to replace it, but for the sake of the video, why not? Just gotta dig in there and get it out.
O-ring going in. Hopefully it's the right size. You always gotta hope these aftermarket things. Okay, in goes the brand new input shaft. Just like that. Then we're gonna put the circlip back in. Now you don't need to put this seal because it's already sealed bearing, but for extra sealing power, you might as well just use this. And what you want to do is you actually want to use some wheel bearing grease or any grease at all, because it's not being lubricated by the gear oil anymore. So it's gonna just add a little bit of grease to it. And you just put it in to get that sealed press fitted on. I got this 30mm socket. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of hammering. That's good. Sweet. Okay, now we're pretty much just gonna reverse the process and start installing things. Something you want to do is you want to make sure there's some grease in the input shaft area here. There is a little bit of backlash between the two gears, and if it's dry, it will wear out. Ask me how I know. Now it's time to install the motor here. Move the cart around a little bit. Oh yeah, fits much better. The shaft is tight. Okay. We'll just start installing. So we're pretty much done back here. So we're just gonna get the access panel installed. And you might need to fish the motor wires back in under the controller. Now these are labeled, and the controller is labeled. Over there is W, V, and U. All right, going to tighten things down now. All right, we're gonna connect the battery. Put this back. And that's going to wrap up this video on installing a new input shaft on this EZGO RXV out doing a test drive, and it solved the severe whining issue. I've replaced many of these, and as you saw, anybody can do it. Thanks for watching.